Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast, episode 315. I am your host, Ainsley Bowden, joined by the usual crew here, ready to talk about some things called games. We got a week of interesting games releasing, including, of course, the PlayStation 5 Pro we're going to talk about as the main topic today. We got Death Stranding releasing on Xbox as a surprise. We got the new horror game, Slitterhead, more on Dragon Age, a new Mario and Luigi game, and more to talk about. But it is a glorious Sunday here, joined by the lawman himself, Mr. Hoglaw. How we doing, my friend?
Oh, sorry, guys. Missed my cue.
I just don't know if lawyers are technically lawmen. Usually that refers to sheriffs and policing. But, you know, hey, I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here, talking about
Play
games,
a dual role.
ready to go.
You can't be a sheriff and a lawyer? Come on.
I'm just not a sheriff. I don't know whether you can be one or not.
Yeah, I think it's in like a small town where sheriffs are assumed to have also know the law. I don't know if police are experts on the law, but if you're a sheriff, I feel like you have to.
No, part of their qualified immunity rules is that they don't have expertise in law. We can talk about that on another show.
Or why not on this one? Let's do it. I want to talk about qualified immunity.
Yeah, you want to talk about qualified immunity? We'll talk about civil forfeiture, the 2024 U.S. election.
We're definitely not talking about that.
What a show. Get excited, everybody.
I'm excited about this episode as somebody who came here to escape reality and talk about video games. I'm excited to lean into reality. Let's start with the deficit, spending deficit. Talk about the debt, Hogue.
Yes, let's talk about debt and financial policy.
Otherwise known as our money backlog.
Yeah.
Money. I think it's their money backlog. I don't think it's ours.
Yeah,
you guys
that's
excited
fair.
for expansion number 47 for America. I think they're reusing a lot of old content. They did this before during Grover Cleveland. I don't know if you guys remember, late 18th century or late.
Did they just flip assets?
Yeah, basically, it looks like a kind of a reskin.
Oh man,
straight from Call of Duty. This makes PlayStation remakes look good. Mr. Ty Guy, my fellow traveler in arms this week. How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I didn't get to play a lot of games because I was on planes and stuff, but I saw some cool things I'll be able to talk about next week. And I also ended up not reviewing Metro Awakening because of code and timing stuff. So I'm just chilling, guys, until Path of Exile 2. I'm hanging out and playing games and honestly focusing on other parts of my life. You know,
you did just get married.
I got married. I realized I haven't seen her in a couple months. I was like, hey, how you doing? You holding up, champ? You doing all right? She's doing okay. That was good. Yeah, man.
Your quarterly check-in, you know?
Yeah. I do performance review. Yeah, we do go through all the. Yeah. Did you meet your KPIs?
I really just like the notion that your love language is champ for your wife.
Yeah, champ. I do call her a lot of like kid, champ, stuff like that. I do
Sport.
That.
Sure.
Fair. Sport's a good one. Yeah.
She doesn't like it. She's like, "What's wrong with you?" But I think it's builds character. I think.
The right answer is I was just born this way. You signed on.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, bro,
General Sun says, "Buddy." Buddy's a good one.
You knew exactly what you were getting into, and she can't complain at all. It's like, bro, I was. It's not like I false advertised. I didn't put on airs at any point in this relationship.
Yeah, that's fair.
Let's just say she enjoyed the times I was gone this week. Anyway, how's everybody doing? How you doing, Ains? We never check
games.
In on you. You check in on us, but we never check in on you. How you doing this week, Ains?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
Flip it on the host.
Yeah. I was traveling too last couple days to see something I can't talk about. I feel like Travis this week. In fact, I'm not going to be able to talk about it for a couple weeks yet. But it was very fun. Travel sucked, but the event was good. The game was awesome, and I'm excited to talk in a couple weeks more about it. So more to come on that soon. That's really it.
The actual process of traveling always sucks. Like,
dude,
you can have good places that you're going. You can enjoy things even on the way if you're not flying. But the actual process of getting from place to place, not for me.
It's just always a hassle. Like, because they booked it for me, right? You get these kind of connecting flights and lower end economy, airlines, right? Which is fine. I'm not complaining at all. But then your flight gets delayed. And then it gets delayed again, and they say you're not going to make your connecting flight. And the response to me was, well, we can get you on another flight. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I have to get to LA tonight, and I had tickets to the Kings game. So then they're like, well, let's see if we can reroute you. So then instead of going to Denver, I go to Houston, which, if you're not aware, is directly south of me when I'm trying to get to LA. So that's just a complete waste of time. Then I've got a 4-hour layover in the airport, and it's just a disaster. Yeah. And then that happened again on the way home yesterday. Almost same thing. So I didn't get home until last night, and just a little tired. But I can't complain. It was a free trip to see a game. So
traveling is like a loading screen. It really is. There's nothing really interesting around. Although, if you train your body how to sleep, you can fast travel. I learned this. I used to back when we were all going to offices. I took the subway every day downtown. It's like a 40-minute or 30-minute ride, and I could fall asleep as soon as I got on the subway, and I trained my body to know when to wake up at the right time. So I literally could fast travel. I would get on the subway, there, 5 seconds, perfectly trained. I wonder if I still have that skill.
It's more efficient fast travel than Red Dead. Well done.
Dude, it was pretty good. I never missed my stop. I would always wake up, and there was people around me that were who knew me on the subway, and they were like, dude, this guy's a legend. He knows exactly when to wake up. So, yeah, man.
Yeah, Tal, literally, I flew into Dallas-Fort Worth yesterday. You're not lying. That is true. And then they're like, oh, you're at a Seagate, but it's the other end of the terminal, so you have to get the shuttle, and hopefully you'll make your gate. Otherwise, we'll just get you on another flight. And I'm like, no, you're not listening to me. I need to make my flight. What are we talking about here? I'm like, it's 6 p.m. at night. There's no other flights going to Kansas City, tonight. I'm not sleeping in Dallas. Never mind. It's fine.
Why not? Ooh, Sleeping in Dallas. Great name for an indie film. Who wants to shoot it? Hogue?
There's another name about Dallas that was famous when we were younger. I forget what that was about though.
Debbie does. Yes.
I was joking, Hogue. That I wasn't gonna say it, but that's fine.
What the heck are you guys talking about?
She just
Debbie does Dallas? No.
She does Dallas.
She does cities. It's old 80s stuff, man. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah. Anyway, why don't we talk about some games? So, like I said, there's not a ton of news this week, but obviously we're going to talk the PS5 Pro. Like I said, some games. We got the Sony investor call, a couple updates on some things, Halo 2 anniversary update, which is really cool. So we'll get to that in a minute. But of course, let's kick us off. So yes, we have a new look this week. I want to thank our regular viewer, Shoosh, who created this new graphic for us. We're still kind of fine-tuning the graphics at SG, new look, new layout, new intro. So all that's going to be continued work in progress. But we're playing around with this one this week. So welcome to feedback on that one. Of course, Googleman kicks us off with our super chat right out of the gate. Let's get to it.
Googleman81 for 10 euros writes, there's a poetic song by the band Machine Head titled Locust. Maybe that's us now. Or maybe we're like Winono's Big Brown Beaver by Primus. Who knows? Who knows with a period, not who knows with question mark.
Yeah. That is a great
a person named Who Knows.
Doctor Who knows the answer to this question.
That is a great song, by the way. Primus, classic, man. I love Primus.
I know songs too. We're all in the same world.
Yeah, I know songs too. Googleman, thank you as always. Appreciate you. We also have, if I can get to it here, figure out what I'm doing.
Googleman 91. No? Let's try to guess. Oh boy. What is this?
Here we go. Tides picks this week. We have a
dude.
Why does it say
get out of here? What is this? Oh, what the? Who are you paying? You're paying someone for this. You do not look like that, my dude, at all, bro. This is unhinged. This is the. I look like a cartoon character. He looks like the cover of a romance novel. What? Dude.
It's just how I look, man. I don't know what you're talking about.
You're not even in the same style. I'm so
Actually, it's like
offended by
3
this.
different styles because I don't look like that either. But
No, you don't
with
look
my
like that, but you look like you're in the same style as me. Like you're like a goofy
up
minimalist.
closer, yeah, he's
Yeah,
definitely
for
got the
sure.
romance
He
novel
is
thing
like a
going
sketchbook, like somebody drew Hogan a sketchbook, but not Hogan at all.
in a
Dude,
fantasy novel.
This is offensive to me.
Thank you, Tide, for offending Travis.
This is crazy. This is crazy.
Oh my god! All right. Well,
I
thank
think we
you
look
as always, Tide. I like my earmuffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No connecting.
No, they're just they
It's
just
around the
float
back.
on my ears. Yeah.
It's around the back, definitely.
Maybe.
Tide, funny as always, and random name coming in with super chat as well.
Random underscore name for $4.99. Glad to get to watch live. Also, was super surprised about the surprise from Kojima Productions. $20 worth. I think he
Yeah.
meant Kojima, but yes, $20 for Death Stranding.
Death Stranding is one of my favorite games, and you guys should check it out. I'm super happy that Xbox gets to watch it, gets to
boring.
play it.
It's
Yeah,
no, I
watch
think
it.
watching it is the correct answer.
Hey, Death Stranding's fantastic, and you guys can have your own opinions, obviously, but they're wrong if you don't like it. So there you go.
It's I've said my piece on Death Stranding many times. I'm just not interested. I hope everyone enjoys it. I did see a lot of people enjoying it. It's great to see it on Xbox. It was apparently 5 years to the day. So obviously the exclusivity deal they thought was 5 years. But great to see it.
It was like to the minute. I mean, if you're watching these things, it's pretty clear that would have been a 5-year window. But
Yeah.
it's still super cool because Kojima looks to have bought his intellectual property back. And basically, however you feel about him as an artist or as a creator of video games, seems to be a very smart businessman because this was the first time he was out on his own after Konami, and he effectively arranged for PlayStation and Sony to backstop his dream project. They let him use their engine, for instance, to get this game done, and then figured out a way to have that come back to him after a 5-year period, and now has it completely under his own control. By all looks from the outside. I mean, like, that's really smart.
Yeah, I can't argue with you. I think he's just got a lot of clout in that sense. His name drives a lot
dude.
of
If
interest.
you're starting
But
a studio as that guy, they'll give you whatever you want. You get very favorable terms.
And I don't know why. Haven't figured that part out, but
I know
he
why.
has the clout.
Because Metal Gear Solid 5 is amazing.
When he got Death Stranding out in 5 minutes on a brand new studio. I mean, the man can clearly
True.
produce products.
He made it quick. He did make it quick.
Although it is
a
Death
boring
Stranding.
game, though. Yeah, it's kind of
So
I'll say this, Hogue. It being on Xbox, I was thinking to myself this week, I was like, maybe I'll give it another shot. Maybe I'll try to see why people don't fall asleep during this game immediately. I don't know. We'll see.
Death Stranding is fantastic, and don't listen to the people above me.
We've all heard your opinions, but we've also heard your other opinions. We've seen what makes you happy, and so now we doubt.
we've seen what makes you happy.
We have to take everything you say with a grain of salt. So,
Look,
my God.
you know what? We're on a program right now where we talk about our opinions on video games. So if people want to discount mine, that's fine. I'm not entirely sure why they're watching, but hey.
Well, to be fair, I think all three of us have very contrasting opinions at times, so I think it works out.
true.
Speaking of which,
it's fantastic.
to be honest with you, I haven't played it just because I'm not interested.
That is honest.
Yeah. So I've always joked that I can't really speak on it because I haven't played it. So, but it just doesn't interest me, which is fine. I know quite a few people love it. It seems that, with the 5 years, releasing on PC and now releasing on Xbox, obviously, because out of the gate, it didn't even sell that well. But then it's just picked up steam over time. So either people have really kind of latched onto it, or I think he's just kind of spaced it out well with releases and updates. There's the director's cut, PC release, all that. So it's worked out for him. And then we should get, one of the things we're going to talk about is Death Stranding 2 should be next year. So this is another good way to get people re-interested in it as they lead up to part 2. So
yeah, I think that's the idea. And Death Stranding 2, I'm excited about. I'm not sure that this particular story needed a sequel. So I'm curious as to what they did with it, because Kojima is a madman, however else you feel about him. But I'm excited about that particular game next year. And I'm excited that Xbox and Microsoft fans get to play it now. So, yes, it was an exciting announcement.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So speaking of games, I want to talk more about Dragon Age.
Can I get in front of Dragon Age?
Can you get in front of it? Sure.
Yeah, just for a second here. We can talk about Dragon Age. I'm more than happy to, Ains, in a minute. But there was a game that you talked about last week that I effectively scoffed at playing when you mentioned it. And I wound up picking it up because
I don't even remember what it was.
A crazy person. And I just hate the name of this game, Slitterhead. But I picked it up. It's been trashed by virtually every major reviewer. Folks, I want to tell you, Slitterhead, really, really good game. Very, very clunky. Has a lot of things that aren't kind of the friction-free AAA experience that you might be used to, which we'll get into when we talk about Veilguard. But Slitterhead has its own vibe. It's super interesting, and it's, I think, wrongly marketed as a horror game. It's not really horror in the sense of things jumping out at you or frights, as it were. It's horror in the sense of kind of existential or conceptual horror. You've heard me talk about games like Soma and the thought process that goes with examining what it means to like copy your body into new locations. Slitterhead is a game in which you are in kind of the absolute scummy, gritty version of Kowloon and dealing with aliens, demons, who knows what they are, that have taken over various aspects of the underworld. And it's silly and fun, and it's like nothing else that has ever been released before or that you've played this year. So I do recommend checking it out.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I picked up this one as well. I've not played it, but the trailer, I was like, there's enough stuff I haven't seen here to want to try it, even if everything else about it kind of looked bad and generally like the user reviews were low and also the critic reviews were low. So it strikes me as one of those ones that maybe hasn't found its footing exactly, but if it's doing something unique, that to me goes a pretty long way. So I do want to put some time to that at some point.
Yeah, the basic premise of this game is that you show up as a kind of disembodied spirit, and we're not even sure whether you're a soul or a ghost or an alien or a parasite or whatever it might be. But the basics of playing the game are that you bounce between different bodies, occasionally find people that have special skills that become characters in the game. And otherwise, you're gaining access to things with different bodies. You're making your way into clubs that you couldn't without the specific body. You're taking over cranes to get through aspects of the city.
Sounds like my Friday night.
With crane operators. To me, it feels a lot like what you would have wanted to see from something like Unknown 9. But in a space of this kind of gritty, almost exploitation movie, neon-filled, dark, wet streets.
Dark wet streets.
Exactly.
Love those dark wet streets.
Well, it's what I mean is it's kind of gross. Like you feel uncomfortable being in various of these places, and then it's silly. So you walk in and you're confronting a mafia boss, say, and the mafia boss will be behind a desk like you're expecting a mafia boss, but it's just a person's torso with like a giant crab head coming out of it. And talking just like a normal mafia boss otherwise. And you're like, okay, this is a weird thing that I'm experiencing. But it's really, really interesting. And the characters are hunting these monsters down. So it has this kind of Invasion of the Body Snatchers or They Live kind of feel to it. So I really like it. It's like nothing I've played before. You know, I love that. I'm a sucker for novelty. It is clunky, and it is clunky in the way that like games 20 years ago might have been. Like it'll tell you, you need to investigate this mafia boss, or you need to hit this button, and then it will give you no other indications of anything anywhere. And you just kind of have to figure out where you're going in a way that leads you to understanding the locations better and understanding the geography better, but is undoubtedly part of the reason why it got lower scores than I think it deserves.
Yeah, while you guys were talking, I'm looking through the reviews, and it's kind of hilarious. Like IGN gave it a 5, The Gamer gave it an 8. Eurogamer gave it a 4. Some other site gave it a 9. It's like all over the place, but they all say very unique. If not very well implemented, it's definitely unique and different. And yeah, it's a strange mix of reviews.
Games that could use a sequel.
Well, I'll check it out when it goes cheap.
It does feel like Slitterhead 2 is probably where it could make its hay. But it's a really good game. It's got a lot of really good ideas. I highly recommend it. And I was not expecting to even play it because the name sucks.
How much time have you played?
I think
because that's the other thing you have to keep in mind with reviewers is they're forced to play the entire game, and sometimes your opinions of something that's cool for a few hours can change if you're forced to play it for 20 or however long.
That's true.
Yeah, but I know we've disagreed on this. I don't disagree with reviewers having to do that to give you a full, complete review, but I do disagree with the notion that you can't get your money's out of a product in a dozen hours or so. I've played this for about 15, and I think it's really, really good.
You played that for 15 hours since Friday?
Yeah.
What?
He doesn't have a job, Ains.
Fucking hell. Excuse my language.
He just sits and plays games, dude.
That caught me off guard. I thought you were going to say like 2 to 3 hours.
Oh, no.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome, though. I'm glad to hear that, Hogue. I definitely want to check it out. Is it a full price game? I haven't looked at it.
$50.
50, I believe.
50. Well, I hope. Remember, this is the first game from Boca Game Studio, and I said Shinji Mikami last week. It's not Mikami though. It's what's his name? Silent Hill's creator, right?
It is.
Yeah. So it's rated 65 on OpenCritic anyway. It's coming out at a tough time right now. I don't know what sales are going to be like. Let's hope they do okay enough to sustain their studio. Because, they've been working on this. This debuted a few years ago when I first shown it. So they've been working on it for a while.
It's really good. The other thing that I think has hurt its reviews is that I think they marketed it primarily as a horror game. I think you even mentioned it as a horror game, Ains.
Yeah.
And it has those elements. Like I said, it's got that they live aliens amongst us kind of feel to it. It is not PT. It is not this game where things jump out of closets at you. And the structure of the game is you're hunting monsters down, so it gives you that power, not powerless feel.
Well, they definitely marketed it as a horror game because the game is titled Slitterhead.
I'm not saying that was wise. I think the name is terrible.
That is the most horror-ass name I've ever heard of anything. That's like, no doubt. Like that would be no doubt in my mind. Have you seen Slitterhead? You wouldn't even have to tell me it. I would be if that was a movie. I'd be like, no, I don't like horror. You know what I mean? Like that's like if somebody said that word to me, and then you're like, oh no, it's a romantic comedy. Really? Slitterhead. I would never have guessed. You know what?
The very first trailer for it, there was a monster that's head opened up and swallowed someone or something. Yeah.
Well, I think they are going for that kind of Cronenberg. How does this sound? Kind of feel. But I think game reviewers are disappointed by it not being a jump out and scare you type game.
No, I don't mind that. I mean, I wouldn't say Ghostwire Tokyo was a jump out and scare you PT like experience yet. I like that quite a bit too. So yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Maybe over the holidays, I'm sure it'll get discounted probably rather quickly depending on the reviews. So we'll see.
Now I want to watch The Fly with Jeff Goldblum.
They're remaking The Fly.
Yeah, but they can't.
I know. Trust me, I know.
He's a legend.
They're making a new one. He is a legend, no doubt. Yeah, so the main thing I wanted to talk about is Dragon Age, just because I was playing the hell out of Dragon Age up until I flew, and so I haven't played a whole lot else this week, but I did put a lot of time into Dragon Age. So I think last week when we talked, I was at like 8 hours or so, 9 hours, something like that. I'm nearly at 30 now. And so I will say, last week when we talked, I know I was a little higher on it than you, Hogue, but I was still kind of like, I'm still got to see where this goes. So apparently this game is much longer, especially if you play like me, where you're doing all the side quests and exploring and stuff, much longer than I anticipated. I talked to Don this morning. He just finished Act 1, and he's already got 46 hours in it. So the people I've talked to have finished this are like 60 hours plus. So I'm at 30. I'm still in Act 1, but I will say this game has gone way up on my list.
Why?
I am so many reasons. First, I'm really digging the expanding environments as you explore more. It's opening up more regions to go to. I think that they're not, as we talked about last week, they are not the kind of wannabe open world areas of Inquisition. but they're really well designed. There's a really good loop there in the sense of you're finding shortcuts, you're finding secrets, you are having your intermittent battles and your God of War, Gears of War type element we talked about last week. And then you're unlocking new paths, you're going back to the region. So when you first get one of the characters in your crew, you go through the region initially, which is like, a little more linear. You can't explore the whole thing. Then it opens up for full exploration and it opens up side quests in that region. And you can go back, with those characters, and they each of your characters have a like companion mission, you go do with them. I really like that. I'm starting to like the loot system more as I've progressed more. Someone mentioned last week, someone told me, I think it was Midnight Dreary, and I wasn't far enough to really latch on to the idea. But it is very similar to Hogwarts, where, there's chests all over the place. And when you open a chest, you're either finding a new item or you're finding an upgrade to your item, which upgrades its rarity and gives you additional bonuses. I really like that. The combat, I'm really starting to dig now that I've gotten a better grip on more abilities and kind of the combos you can make, picking your party members and the kind of combos you can pull off with all three people together is really fun. So I'm liking that a lot. And I like that it's just expanding. The world's expanding as I get further into it. I'm also excited because the people that I've talked to now, shout out to kind of like Fatboy Horror, obviously Don's playing the heck out of it. A bunch of others I talked to who have either finished it or gotten farther. I've known people that are already on their second playthrough. So apparently the arc of this game from a story perspective, right? The ladder acts is very similar to some older BioWare games where they say it gets much more intense, right? After you build your full party, you get all 6 members, is it, or 7 members? And then, you get past Act 1 and it kind of takes off. So I'm excited to see where it goes, but there's something about the loop, from exploration to looting to the combat to getting the characters, that it's just really, really vibing with me. I'm completely hooked on it.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, like I said last week, I like Veilguard. I don't love Veilguard, but I do like it. I like it better than Inquisition. And so I think it's worth your time to play. I do think, Ains, that you're right in the spot where it probably plays the best, feels the best. One of the major problems I have with it where I am now is that when you get that handle on combat has some good ideas. It really doesn't evolve. And the game, I think, is bigger than that combat can sustain, in all honesty, without that evolution. So it gets boring faster than I would like. And then on top of that, for an RPG, a bigger problem is that I'm not invested in the story at all. The story is very arch. We talked about the fact that they do a full-on kind of sleight of hand with Solus.
Yeah.
And the better plot line from Inquisition to replace it with Doctor Who or Sailor Moon-esque supervillains. And I don't love that change. And the characters themselves, while I don't quite ascribe to all of the culture war stuff you see online with the stuff that's in this game, I do think that it has a major problem that every single character is kind of your therapist that is validating your feelings, right? So your Rook is validating the other character's feelings. In every conversation you stumble onto with any of the characters in your party, they're constantly essentially being nice to each other. And it is this kind of low friction, nothing really matters. It's not terribly serious, Disney movie-esque RPG.
Yeah, I generally with you on the last point there. It is definitely not. It doesn't feel as maybe weighty is the word sometimes as others. I will say I was impressed, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm sure. How far are you now, Hogue?
45 or 50. I'm at the end of Act 2.
Okay, cool. So you definitely did this. So there was the one that I was impressed with where it basically gave you an ultimatum choice between helping one of 2 areas. And then, when obviously you pick your one and the other one gets, again, I'm trying not to spoil anything here, but it is kind of like, you have 1 or 2 options. Now it is just 1 of 2, I get. But at least it has character impact, it has region impact, and actually changes that region too from an exploration standpoint too, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's, to me, BioWare and Veilguard particularly does this kind of illusory hand-waving at choice a lot. And the choice between those 2 cities that you get in the middle of Act 1, it feels very much like BioWare doing that again. There's really no tangible difference between which side you pick on this other than a new kind of map and one of the factions being moved to a different location. And it's not The Witcher, right? Like, it's not something that is actually making changes.
Nothing is The Witcher.
Right. Okay. But then don't pretend to be. Like, the problem I have with Veilguard is that they want to do all these things. They require you to be of a certain type of person in order to assemble this group and this group to act in certain ways. It's very much a JRPG insofar as you can't move the ball very far in one direction or another without the entire kind of notion of the game breaking. And so I would ask BioWare to just suck it up and make a JRPG. I love them. You can do that. But don't pretend like I'm making these major changes.
Please don't. Please clap. Yeah, no, I get your point. I think for me, and it was funny because I was thinking this morning as I was playing. I got up early this morning. I was playing a little bit, and we talked about Metaphor at length too. And Metaphor, obviously, I think is generally the more celebrated game of the two from a critical standpoint.
It's better.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it may be a better game. I have way more fun playing Veilguard.
I get that. I actually understand that, right? I've described it as Veilguard is the beach read, and Metaphor is the thing that was assigned to you in lit class. Like there's a vast difference in the level of your brain working at these games. And Veilguard is a decent beach read, but it isn't challenging you and it isn't asking you to do too much at any given time.
See, the only thing I would say on Metaphor, like, I'm reading a book. There's nothing that challenges me in Metaphor. Nothing. I go through, we go through 30 minutes or an hour of reading. Then I go to a dungeon. I beat a whole bunch of enemies, which are rather repetitive, I might add. I mean, the same can be said of Veilguard.
I was going to say, you don't want to take Metaphor's enemy selection against Veilguard's because Veilguard runs out of enemies 10 hours in.
Yeah, but there's nothing challenging. It's not, Metaphor doesn't make me think. I mean, I don't know where we're getting that concept. It's just reading. It's not, these aren't high concepts. They're certainly not new concepts. It's a JRPG times 1,000.
I think the Metaphor combat system requires a lot more of your brain than Veilguard's.
Yeah, maybe, but it's just because that's a turn-based combat versus more of an action combat. But I think I have more fun playing Veilguard, which I didn't really expect to say. Metaphor was super high on my list this year. Adore Persona 4 and 5. I was really excited about it, and I still like it a lot. But I've been surprised at how off-putting it has been to me. Whereas the opposite is true of Veilguard, as we talked about at length. We were all kind of indifferent on Veilguard coming in and what is it going to be like and what's it going to be like to play. And I find myself completely hooked on it. I just whatever it does works for me personally. And I think that's going to be, that's the story of games in general, right?
I think it's a good game.
Yeah.
I think that it is unfortunately not what I'm looking for out of a story or a role-playing experience. But I never know what I'm going to get when I play Veilguard. Like there are sessions where I get done and I'm said that was a really enjoyable video game session. And there are sessions where I'm like, this game is garbage. Like it is a complete kind of unknown
enigma
when I turn that game on. And Metaphor, like I know it's going to stress me out and thinking about how my characters are built and how they're going to interact and whether or not I can handle X, Y, or Z, or whether I'm wasting my time in the wrong way on the calendar and all these various things that I'm thinking about in Metaphor. And Veilguard is like, nah, man, hold down the right trigger and you're good to go.
Yeah. Have you put any time into either of these, Travis?
Yeah, I'm almost done with Metaphor. I'm at the very end. Definitely farther.
Oh, seriously? Jeez.
Yeah. That one I've been playing with D. D and I have been tag teaming that one, so pretty good. And then Veilguard, I'm farther along, but I'm definitely not as far as you guys. I haven't made the big decision that you were referring to.
It's not a big decision. He's overselling it, but it is a decision.
It's a decision. I mean,
your time to talk past. Let's see. Yeah, that's where I'm at with those two. I don't know. I'm gonna work my way through them. They're not super high on the priorities list.
You sound indifferent to both of them.
I will play both of these games.
He's getting ready for Slitterhead.
That's right.
Yeah.
Slitterhead.
Yeah.
No, I'm yeah, I mean the list is just so long of games I have to catch up on, so I've got like this priority backlog group and it's chaotic. Plus, reviews.
Yeah. Yep, I get it. So you said that you're not reviewing Metro Awakening, so that came out this week.
Yeah. We missed the stuff happened with the code, and we ran out of time to review it. So
Okay.
unfortunately,
Yeah, I haven't obviously.
VR
Sorry.
games are pretty time sensitive. People stop caring about them pretty quick. So yeah,
I gotcha.
I do want to play that one though. That's also on my list of games to play because it seems like it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is I haven't had a chance to play it. It did release. I really want to play it. I haven't even looked at reviews for it. I'll look those up real quick. While I ask Hogue, I'm assuming you've played this one. I'm going out on a limb here. Mario and Luigi Brotherhood.
I have, but I have to be
Nice.
honest, it was not my favorite Switch game that I played this week. So Mario and Luigi is a series that I have tried to get into a number of times. It was primarily, I think it was only a portable series before now, and Switch is a portable system in part. But it's kind of like a my first Mario RPG series, and I thought this one might be a little bit more up-jumped, elevated, and it is in fact not. So I've bounced off it a couple of times. I've tried to play it. I think my time on Brotherhood is like 4 hours at this
Brothership. Sorry, I said Brotherhood. Sorry, Brothership.
You did. It is Brothership, or as my phone likes to say, Brother's Hip. Think about it.
When you Google it, like when you say like, repeat it to me or whatever, it says Brother's Hip.
I don't talk to my phone that way, Travis. I just type it in.
Wait, you type it in and it speaks to you?
No, you keep adding this speaking phone.
Well, you said it likes to say.
I did. That's true. You got me there, Travis.
You're saying it autocorrect.
Yes.
God, you're so old. Mother God. Jeez.
All right. Well, however old I may or may not be, Brothership has not connected with me as of yet, even though it continues the year of the ship, where I get to pilot a ship in Brothership, just like I did in East 10, and just like I did in, of course, Skull and Bones. What a year it's been.
There it is.
Right? I was told that I didn't say Skull and Bones last week, and I'm trying to correct for that now.
Nobody said Skull and Bones last week. It was glorious.
Well, in any event, it really is the year of captaining a ship, if you'd like to do that. So there are a lot of games with that as an option. I think it's handled probably the worst out of those 3 games in Brothership. But again, this is kind of baby's first RPG. So go into it with that expectation, and you might like it. I have not connected with it as of yet. But I did connect with a different game that came out this week called Farmagia, which I don't think we've talked about.
Oh, we talked about this one when they did the debut trailer like early this year because we made fun of the name.
Yes. That sounds like us.
So I do remember that. So I didn't even realize it had come out. How is it?
Farmagia is excellent. Can
you just say the name one more time?
Farmagia.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a game in which you are essentially a wizard that grows monsters to go with you on dungeon runs in what is a very kind of anime, fairy tale, episodic storyline. But it's really well done, and it's very much like when you're in the dungeon playing Pikmin, where you hold down the button and you throw the monsters of various types with you at these other monsters that are bad monsters, not like your good monsters that are homegrown organic monsters. But you have the farm sequence, and then it has a nice little pattern of doing the farming, and then you run out of energy and you run the dungeon, and then you get the energy back and you farm for more monsters, and it's just really delightful.
So I get how you farm. How do you Magia?
The Magia. So only certain people in this world can farm monsters. They are the Farmagia.
So it's like a Magia is like mage.
Yes, it is.
They're farm mages.
Farm mages.
Are we sure it's not Farmagia?
Yes, because it's voice acted, so you get to hear Farmagia a lot.
Excellent. I love hearing the word Farmagia. Let's say it more. I think this sounds like a game D might want to play.
It's excellent. It's really, really well done, and it's got a fun combat loop and fun farming sequences. So I don't know what to say.
Hey, sorry.
You said it.
The game again?
Farmagia.
Farmagia. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So you are definitely high on this, Hogue.
Farmagia and Slitterhat are my
the way you
said
that sound like you were saying that he's like, you are high.
No, because As we're talking, I'm looking up the scores of these games just to see. So Farmagia is a 72 right now on OpenCritic. It only has 8 reviews though, so maybe that'll change. I don't know. Metro Awakening, just for reference, is in what was it, high 70s. So we'll see. But
you are
Farmagia,
high if you like that game, Hogue. That's what I just learned from Ains.
Honestly, it's
Metro
one of those,
Awakening 78.
It's one of those where the Nintendo Directs are doing their job, because you see so many indie games on the store and whatnot, and then you can see this one and be like, oh yeah, I saw that trailer. I didn't remember that we made fun of the name, but certainly it's coming back to me now hearing you guys talk about it. But it is a good game. I enjoy it.
Sorry, what's a good game?
Farmagia.
Oh, Farmagia. Got it.
Good game. Okay. All right. Hey, I mean, fair enough. I'm sure it's just one of those games that doesn't interest me at all. Like, it couldn't be further away from a game I would play, but that's fine.
I do think that you have to like.
I think it's Farmagia. It's called.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do think you have to like a certain amount of kind of completely superficial Sailor Moon-esque anime storytelling. It's done by the artist that did Fairy Tail. Do you know that anime, Ains?
No.
Yeah, I figured.
Why didn't you ask me if I didn't know it?
Well, because I figured you do.
Because you probably know it.
Yeah, I do know it.
Yeah. I'm not an anime guy, which is fine. Yeah, I know I'm in the minority on that. So okay,
I'm
cool.
legally obligated to know every anime that's ever existed.
Is it?
I just like that Travis's trolling here is like exactly what the Farmagia marketing team would ask us to do anyway if they deign to pay for me.
They pay me $150 every time we say Farmagia on screen. So I'm really just cashing it in. I'm running up the clock here. It's great.
Can I add one more Hoag's Notes for games that reviewers hate?
Yes, but 1 second. I just want to let people know Farmagia is on Switch, PS5, and PC. So it's not just on Switch if you want to check it out.
This is a sponsored advertisement.
It is not FTC, but I appreciate it.
This is not.
Yeah, don't say that, because the Google Gemini will pick it up in the voice.
This is a paid ad.
Why are you the way you are? Okay.
Farmagia made me this way. All right.
So there is a game that I've been playing that I was really enjoying, and then I saw IGN absolutely trash it.
Nice.
And I had to rethink my life choices, both about reading IGN reviews and about the games that I enjoy. But I got this game because it was a graphical showpiece, and it is that. But it's a real-time strategy game in which you run an ant colony called Empire of the Ants.
Empire of Ants, yeah.
And I really like it, mostly because I really like the graphics and the music. The game isn't much to speak of. You're basically highlighting areas to send your ants and defending colonies and fighting termites and things like that, which is why IGN didn't love it. But it is a different kind of thing in video games. So if there's anything to take away from my list this week, Slitterhead, Farmagia, Empire of the Ants, is that there are interesting games that aren't just over-the-shoulder third-person action adventures out there. It's just that they may not connect with reviewers as much as people that are looking for that
players in
might
general. I think that's the part you're missing.
Well, I don't take my notions of what players in general will like from the review class. We've talked about that.
Well, there is no review class, and also it's user reviews as well that you're ignoring. User reviews for these games are consistent with the. It's not like we're outliers.
The guy that goes out there and puts a review up on the user review site is that same kind of critical review class that I am concerned with. So I don't care about it one way or the other. I don't recommend reading reviews. On no apologies to Travis on this, or to Ains, I suppose.
Yeah, you should not take Hoag's advice really in this space. He's not playing to your interests, whether it's your time or your money. So.
I don't recommend having your opinion on a game be based on what Travis, Ains, or Hoag says. Not
what a review is for.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's how people use them. So what it's for doesn't really matter.
True. That's not what they use it for. They don't use it to get their opinions. They use reviews to decide to help influence how they're going to spend their time or their money. That is different.
Yes, those are two different things that you just said.
They are. They're very different. And the fact that you can understand that explains exactly why you have such a poor understanding of what reviews are for. There you go.
I'm saying that whatever your product that you put out into the world is for, it doesn't matter if people use it differently.
Yeah, I don't think they do. I just think that you don't use it that way, which is fine. If you have infinite time and infinite money, then yeah, reviews are pointless. But if you value either of those things, it helps to have a friend who has played these games, who maybe has similar tastes as you and can help save you one or both of those things. That's what a review's for. It's not to inform your opinion on what the game is. If you haven't played it, you shouldn't have an opinion, period. But if your friend has played it, they can maybe save you some time or money. That's what it's for.
I implore you, watchers or listeners to the show, to not think of reviewers as your friend.
But they're your peers.
I can only say what I said.
Okay. Can only say what I said. We're moving on from this topic. Finish your point.
It's crazy on this one. No, it's okay. I can't help them. Some people won't learn. That's okay.
All right. Let me comment on a couple things here. Darth Mac gave us a super chat, which I can now put up because we've already said it. So we were trying to avoid it.
_Mac for $2 said, you're making me want to say it. Porsche Power, lol. He was talking about Skull and Bones.
I thought it was
talking about Skull. He was talking about Skull and Bones. It was not Farmagia, although that may start now. I don't know. Darth, thank you as always. Shout out to Midnight Jury. Gifted 1 season gaming membership, Jury. If you weren't here earlier, well, one, I appreciate that, so thank you. And if you weren't here earlier, I think I referenced you regarding Dragon Age and your Hogwarts Legacy comparison. So I think that was you from last week. Thank you. And Bass Digi says Slitterhead is fire.
It's really good. So. It's just super clunky. Some people are going to be okay with that. Some people are not.
Yeah, clunkiness is a personal thing for sure. Yeah. All right. So game-wise, before we move on to PS5 Pro, anything else you want to mention here?
I think I hit the games I wanted to talk about. So no, I'm good.
What are the games I play? Yeah, I'm mostly just catching up this week, and then games I can't talk about. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's jump over to the PS5 Pro then, as it released Thursday. I only got mine last night because I just got home, of course. Came out officially Thursday. If you're not aware, there is a list on the PlayStation blog of the games that are getting day one support. It's about 50 games, give or take. Obviously, a lot of first-party stuff, but there's quite a few third-party things on there as well. And you can see it behind me here. Obviously, I got it. I had to install the baby bump, so it's got its disk drive on it now, which I will give them credit was very, very easy. It took like literally less than 60 seconds to flip that panel off, put the disk drive on, and put the new panel on, so that was good. Of course, it's crazy that, that's another $70 or whatever the heck it was. But here we are. So hooked it up. I've gone through a few games on mine. Travis, I know you said yours didn't arrive yet. So I have talked to a few people who have their pros. I've talked to some people on Blue Sky about, kind of performance of different games. And then I tried Dragon Age. I tried Horizon, Forbidden West, Gran Turismo, which doesn't have an official update, and Demon Souls very quickly as well. So I'm looking forward to playing with it more. Dragon Age is the one that was freshest in my mind, obviously, from having played it so much this week. So I will say early experience is good so far. If you're not aware, it not only has PS5 Pro updates, it also has a variable refresh rate that it can apply to games that even weren't programmed for it, which is good. It also has the capability to update some PS4 games, right, and give them kind of a game boost, similar to what Series X type does with some of the older games as well. So naturally, Bloodborne has no change whatsoever. So those fans continue to be trolled. But I will say on the Dragon Age side, I've been playing it in performance mode. Hogue, where are you playing Dragon Age? Are you on PS as well?
I'm playing it on PlayStation 5, normal.
Okay,
amateur. Yeah.
Well, so was I, obviously. And I've played 100% on performance mode just because I'm a frame rate guy.
Yeah, it's super smooth.
Yeah, super smooth. And I liked it a lot. It's definitely got some we talked about the art direction of that game last week, and some of the environments are beautiful.
I love how
yeah, and what you do notice though, like especially if you're coming from a high-end PC, is the image is a little soft. The resolution, like the pixel density, is a little lower. So the first thing I noticed, there's two things that really jumped out. And this is kind of what you can expect from the Pro, really. This is not a next-gen leap. It's not some gigantic thing. It's that I'm now playing Dragon Age on performance mode, and the image is absolutely sharper. So things are just crisper, sharper, and the reflections and the lighting are nicer as well. So the environments just look overall better. You can put it on the fidelity mode and it looks even better, but it still drops down to 30, which I don't like. So, but it's nice to be able to just play performance mode, but get that sharper image. And the same is really true of Horizon that I checked out very briefly. So it actually on Horizon, it actually has dedicated pro modes built into it. And you can do full frame rate mode, balance mode, or quality mode on the Pro. And so looking at balance mode, you get that 60 FPS, but it's just a lot crisper. So again, I think that's really what you're kind of expecting out of the Pro, is to be able, when you make that choice between fidelity or performance mode, you're going to be able to play performance mode, keep that frame rate, but you're going to get an image that's closer to the quality mode. So I've liked it so far. One thing I totally forgot, because I never updated the hard drive on my base PS5, is this has a 2 terabyte drive, which is nice. So, now I don't have to worry about space or anything else. So, I mean, that's just another bonus, but, factors into the cost as well, obviously. So not a whole lot to say on the Pro. The people I've spoken to have really gotten what they expected. As long as your expectations are in check, that this is not a next-gen leap, being able to just have that higher quality mode on console is a win. So
nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to look to see if there's any questions in the chat, but yeah, GameFire says not worth the price. That's fine. If it's not worth it for you, don't buy it. No big deal. GameFire, that's definitely not true. On sitting close to the TV, I saw the difference on Dragon Age literally immediately. It's night and day. So now again, there's some people that are more critical of image quality than others. If you're used to playing a lot of games on the Switch in particular, or you just generally don't care about, high resolution or the top, whatever, right? Especially like things like ray tracing, it might not matter to you, and that's fine.
Or if your display can't really
or if you have, if you have an older display or something, if you're not worried about that, I think those things kind of go without saying, right? If you're not looking for just the best console experience, then it's not going to really matter to you. So, but yeah, I need to play more with it. Obviously, I'm looking forward to playing some more Gran Turismo. Though supposedly it runs better. I was reading some updates on it. Runs stronger, even though it doesn't have an official update. So I don't know what they mean by that. I've got to look more into it. But I want to check some other games out. So I'll talk more about it.
It should be able to boost things without an update, right? It does that, yes?
Yes. Yeah, it does. At least some of the games I've seen. I'm trying to look through their list here. So Hogwarts Legacy is supposed to be pretty good as well. I've got to check. I did see on here it's got a college football. I don't know what it does for that. So, but Resident Evil 4, obviously all the games you expect, right? Spider-Man, God of War, Horizon. Some of the people I talked to were playing Last of Us 2 again, which, but apparently Last of Us 2,
I'm waiting for the remake.
It looks fantastic. So, it's kind of, I think it's what, if you're a reasonable person, it's what you expected. You know what I mean?
What if you're an unreasonable person?
Then you're watching the wrong show, I think.
Oh, that's too bad.
Right, but if you're a reasonable person, the question really is the value. And yeah, I agree that we can't review for that. Money is different for different people. If you're sitting there saying, do I have to have Chateaubriand again? And what am I even going to spend this money on? Well, then a small, subtle improvement, regardless of whether Ains calls it night and day, I haven't seen that in action myself in the clips. And admittedly, this is a difficult thing to sell because clips and compression and all the things that go into trying to show you what this thing is doing are not necessarily going to meet you on your computer screen. But if you are figuring out, what am I going to spend this $700 on, then maybe this is for you. If you are instead trying to figure out how you're going to pay to have your car get you to work the next day, it does have a different kind of calculation that you have to make as to whether this makes sense. So to me, it's clear that there are other things that $700 could go to that would improve my life more than a PlayStation 5 Pro, but to others that might not be the case.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and funny enough, I know Matt Piscatella, from MPD Group was talking about it because they were talking about the price and sales, and he made it clear, like in talking with Sony, that this is just a premium product. They don't expect this to be a big seller. This is a premium product, niche product for their high end user that's in their environment. That's it.
Well, which is what you'd tell your analysts, certainly. But I mean, Sony has, we talked about this when they announced the Pro, Sony has clearly made hardware mistakes in both their engineering and pricing and understanding of the market with the VR2 and other aspects of what they've done. So, yeah, they're telling their analysts that they don't expect big sales. They shouldn't at a $700 price point for this. But it's still a matter of what those financials are going to say as to whether or not the sales are decent at all. I don't know whether they will be or not. To me, Pro's a hard sales pitch against the X. And yeah, I know you got God of War and Horizon and Tsushima or whatever else over on the PlayStation side of things. That's really how they differentiate. But the Series X has been upgrading and enhancing various games from the last generation for its entire runtime now. And generally looks better than my PlayStation 5 Amateur Edition on my TV where they're both connected. So it's hard for me to say that a $700 machine is better than what does an X sell for now? I don't even know. 4?
Still 5.
5?
Still 5.
I don't think it's gone down in price.
Okay.
It hasn't
even
gone
raised
down.
it
No.
in some places.
The new one is 6, but it comes with the 2 terabyte drive. Yeah.
Yeah, and I get it. I prefer, we've talked about it in this space, the PlayStation controller. It works better for my hands right now, but
Weird hands.
well, stroke hands. But yeah.
Nice.
Stroke hands just sounds, that's a title for another day.
Stroke hands sounds like a Bond villain.
It's the sequel to Slitter.
The old stroke hands.
Slitter hand and stroke hands. But yeah, so enjoying it so far. I mean, again, my expectations were low. My expectation is I turn on Dragon Age and I'm playing in performance mode at a better resolution and better lighting. You've hit the mark. That's all I need.
Put it on the
all-
box. My expectations were low.
Yeah.
Ainsley Bowden.
Yeah, it's true.
Hell yeah.
So I think they said, when we talked about this previously, I think PlayStation is like 11% of the PlayStation 4 user base eventually bought a PS4 Pro. I think something like that, 11%. So we'll have to see what PS5 Pro ends up hitting, but we'll see. And I think, this is day one, right? So I think this could play out over the next year or two when you get games like Death Stranding 2, right? Games like Ghost of Yotei, seeing what the Pro will do for those new releases. So, and then tying into the Pro's launch, there was a Sony investor call this week. Nothing too notable here, but I just wanted to call it out. So, basically, we've talked on this show a lot about Sony's plan or lack thereof of game releases and what's going on with them. So they just kind of finalized that, hey, there's no other major game releasing before April, right, in their fiscal year. I think we kind of already know that, given that it's November. But they did say that, going forward after April, they will release a first-party game every fiscal year. Now, that's easy to say now. Who knows if they'll actually do that? But
I mean,
Ghost of Yotei...
One a year does not seem to be a bridge too far. It's at least
No, I think that's just a statement. Yeah, it's just like, here's an easy statement we can throw out there, right, in response to this. But they did say that
breaking.
Yeah, we're making games. Ghost of Yotei and Death Stranding 2 planned for 2025. Now, obviously, they're talking about fiscal, so that would take us to March of 2026, I presume. But we'll see if I think Ghost will definitely hit that. We'll see if Kojima and his studio hit that with DS2. And then they did announce, which was nice to see. I don't know, obviously, what the funding was or the expectations for this game, but Astrobot has surpassed 1.5 million copies sold so far. So love seeing that. Obviously a big proponent of that game and 3D platformers. So I want to see that game sell well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've seen a lot of discourse on this particular topic. I think 1.5 million copies is good for a relatively unknown intellectual property. Obviously, Rescue Mission and Playroom were good fun, but I don't think Astrobot is Mario. And so I'm happy to see them sell that well. I don't think it was as expensive as some of their other products to make, but we don't really know the full story there because Sony keeps that pretty close to their vest. But yeah, 1.5 million copies is a celebration type number.
Yeah, it feels like it, right? Like, it feels like Astrobot with a 1 million mark, which is pretty traditional, I realize, but you don't expect this game to sell 10 million. Like, you know what I mean? So seeing 1.5 million, a couple weeks, a month after launch? When did that game come out?
Well, I would have preferred Sony to have cultivated a fan base that sees Astrobot with those Spider-Man numbers and maybe not all of their other games with those Spider-Man numbers, but here we are. So 1.5, I think, is good.
Yeah. And hopefully it hits 2 or 3 in time. We'll see. That's before the holidays, before sales and all that. So I have to imagine it'll get there, which is great to see. But yeah, that's pretty much it from PlayStation this week. So we'll see. I want to play more around with the Pro. No Man's Sky, another one. There's a bunch of other games I want to play around with to see. So we'll check that out. But yeah. Rick Davis says, I'm happy with the Pro so far, something 95% of the PS5 user base won't need. But for the others, I think they'll be quite pleased with the improvement in certain and likely future titles, which, yeah.
I think 5% is about right. That's what I would expect for the sell-through on this.
Yeah, at least early, right? So if PS4 Pro got to 11% eventually after years, then yeah, probably going to be a single-digit number for sure out of the gate, no doubt.
To me, the Pro was doing real work though in the PlayStation 4 generation. There were games that were not hitting anything close to the frame rate levels. And I don't see that same need for the PlayStation 5, primarily because Sony has predominantly remade and sold us PlayStation 4 games for 5 years. So this is a different situation than when the PlayStation 4 Pro came out.
I love your jokes, man. It's very funny.
But it's the truth.
What did I miss?
That Sony has not expanded its intellectual property or game software base outside of the PlayStation 4 generation as it had from PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4 by the time the PlayStation 4 Pro comes out.
Returnal? That's a new one.
One game, Returnal?
What else we got?
You tell me.
I mean, you're the one making the claim. What other...
I made a claim that they basically are only making older generation titles. Ragnarok is technically new, but it's essentially operating on the PlayStation 4 at the same time, isn't it?
I know Spider-Man 2 definitely is. Yeah, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I'm just wondering, is it as true as you're saying, or are you just being hyperbolic like usual? Like Returnal's the one I know was a PS5 game. What else do we have?
I think
GT7 was originally advertised as a PS5 game, but then it came out for the PS4 as well. Ratchet and Clank is PS5 only.
I guess if you choose if you include PSVR 2, because those require PS5, they had the what was that game? The one PSVR 2 game that's good.
Synapse?
The one
Synapse, thank you.
Synapse is really good, yeah.
Synapse is good. It's like the only one.
The only, kind of exclusive.
I guess they also, I think they do have an exclusive for Resident Evil 4, but that is it's a remake, so that doesn't really help there.
And they have that in VR too, which is cool.
That's what
or if that's what you're referring to.
That's what I'm referring to, because that is the only one that's an exclusive.
But that's literally a past generation game that also had a Resident Evil 4 version on like Quest.
Correct. Yeah. That version is much worse though.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's the old version of the game, the 360 version.
I think
I don't see Sony having expanded the capabilities of video games in the same way this generation, and so the Pro feels like a cash grab to me because I don't see any reason right now for really having purchased a PlayStation 5. So to sell me a $700 Pro is not going to work for me.
I mean, what about Final Fantasy 7? I know that is also a remake, but you could argue those games are pretty new. They're not really remakes.
Well, I was playing 7 Remake on my PlayStation 4. I think Rebirth is a 5 exclusive.
Rebirth is 5, yeah.
Exclusive for sure.
Which supposedly, I haven't played it because it's not my thing, but supposedly Rebirth is like one of the best examples of the Pro. Like it's supposedly a huge
Did the Pro add a story? No?
I think it counts though. I think it counts.
No, I've heard good things about the Rebirth graphics as well on the Pro. So I think it's great. But
yeah. I also think it counts as a new game you can only play on the PS5, even though it's a remake. It's not really a remake.
But yeah, I think the biggest win for the Pro, which we'll show in time, is the PSSR, right? The scaling software. That's what's really going to kind of drive the improvements across. It's basically like if you have a 40 series card on your PC, right? You get to use DLSS, and DLSS can really improve things depending on the game you're playing. So Silent Hill 2 remake would be another one, by the way.
The chip stuff on the PlayStation 5 Pro sounds to me, having been down this road before, like the cell processor, right? You have all these various sites and experts and people telling you that it's going to be awesome. And we have no indications of that in the real world as of yet.
No, you are that's way off base. PSSR is not a chip. It's software.
Okay, but we have no indications that it's actually going to do anything yet. It's
doing stuff right now.
Do stuff.
It's doing it right now. The stuff I talked about is PSSR.
What? What is?
It's upscaling graphics while maintaining frame rate. That's the whole point of the scaling software. That's what DLSS does. That's what FSR does. That's what XeSS does. It's
Okay.
just the quality of those software. So DLSS is considered kind of the pinnacle, right? That's NVIDIA's AI upscaling on PC if you have a 40 series graphic card. PSSR is also AI driven upscaling, which they've talked a lot about, right? We had the Sony presentation, all this stuff. So seeing it in action, but that's what differentiates the Pro primarily, other than the GPU upgrade and some other hardware stuff. But that software is what is going to be, I'm thinking, is going to be the bigger win for PS5 games on the Pro versus standard. Yeah. And that's why you're getting those options in games like Forbidden West, right? Where you can still run 120 frames if you want to, but still maintain image quality, is because of PSSR.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I can accept that. I haven't seen anything from the screenshots or clips that have been shown to me that would indicate that this is a fantastic piece of tech as of right now. But I have heard a lot of people telling me it is. And so we'll see how it goes in the future, I suppose. But I don't have anything to add on that.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to know about it, I know Digital Foundry did a breakdown of it.
I know they're very enamored with it, but they're also not terribly convincing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think
that's fine.
if you're not in that like world of people who are like pixel counting and stuff, like the PS5 Pro is like obviously a pass for you.
Yeah, I agree. I think we all agree on that. I don't think anyone's saying differently.
Well, I don't think Ains is pixel counting, and I can certainly acknowledge that increases in resolution and various other things that are kind of too ephemeral to itemize can just make the picture prettier from where I'm sitting at in my lowly amateur seat looking at my television. So I can get that. It just isn't coming across in their marketing materials right now. And I don't trust Digital Foundry to be frank.
What?
I don't trust them.
I'm just gonna.
You don't trust Digital Foundry?
That. I would describe Ains as a pixel counter. Like he really cares about this stuff. Like he wants the best experience, and he notices it, and he understands what it is. Like that's what I mean by pixel counter, not literally counting the pixels.
Yeah, I'm definitely not one of those crazy hardcore people, but I am. Yeah, I want the best hardware on all platforms for sure. Yeah, that's true. Although I went with the 4080, not a 4090, but that's because primarily I run in 1440p on PC. But for me, just having a slightly better experience on console is worth it. We've talked about that. If it's not for you, so be it. No big deal. And so, so XM, you said it's crazy to justify a $700 console if you had low expectations. And I think that's a kind of a fair statement to make. The only thing when you talk about price of anything is price to one person is different from price to another. To me, it may be worth $700. To someone else, it may not. That's fine. $700 is not the same amount of money to everyone. So, all right. So
not $700. That's what I want to know.
No, Ains is completely right, Travis. I mean, I know you're poking fun, but the subjective value of money is an entire field of study in economics, and
that's why we don't talk about price in reviews at IGN.
Right, which is the right call.
Correct.
But I would argue that you don't talk about price directly, but you certainly seem to grade differently depending on whether something is free to play or aiming for a smaller kind of audience or a bigger audience at a smaller price.
I mean, I can't speak to every reviewer at IGN, but I can tell you our style guide explicitly says not to do that and that I don't do it and nobody else I know at IGN does. So if you think that that's happening, that's just you reading the tea leaves.
Well, I mean, I could bring up plenty of reviews that are clearly not going to be looked at the same way if it were a AAA game at a $70 price point.
I think clearly.
I think some sites do that better than others. There's definitely some sites that'll review a game stronger if it's a $20 or $30 game.
Yeah, I think some. I think some do that on purpose. Some include it in their like thesis. They're like, hey, if a game is smaller, we're gonna. And a lot of commenters, frankly, on IGN reviews go, hey, why did you review this game like it is any other game, like on the same scale as like a AAA? And we go, because that's what you're supposed to do. So I would say that for every example that a Hogue could offer on like, here's a game I think you graded easily, I could offer a game that we, did not hold back on just because it was made by one person. I reviewed a few of those this year. Squirrel with a Gun, gave it 5 out of 10. I gave the the horror train game, Choo Choo Charles, a 4 out of 10 is made by one game. I mean, these are games that were made by.
Are those
one
people
person.
still mad at you?
Yeah, they're mad at me. The Choo Choo Charles people are super mad at me, and they're like, "Hey, he made it in college," and I'm like, "That's fine. I'm allowed to say it wasn't a good game, not putting any value on your, It's just it's an interesting debate because I think the people who say that are being empathetic, which is rare on the internet, and I don't want to discourage it, but also they're not really like thinking about it from a perspective of a reviewer. Not that they really need to.
Yeah, not that they need to. And I think it's worth calling out, right? Like, I think we talked about this, Travis, when we talked about reviews. It's worth mentioning the price of the game, but the price of the game doesn't define the quality of the game. So, yeah. We have a Papa Hogue sighting in the house.
Nice.
Rick's just like, yeah.
Dad's
here.
What did he say?
All right, Papa Hogue incoming.
I'm going to do my Thomas Hogue voice as I imagine him.
Hyperbolic? Rick? I thought I had cornered the market on that. You three seem to be fighting more today. Knock it off! You're much better than just debating, not fighting. Peace, love, and understanding, boys.
There you go. My Thomas Hogue voice.
You did not nail it, Travis.
All right, that's too bad. I really thought I was doing a good job.
Oh, my God. That's great.
We're
thank you, Papa Hogue.
I don't know what to tell you, Dad.
No, I'm
Are
good.
we fighting today? When did we fight? What is he referencing?
You're in a cranky mood, Travis. That tends to add to the fighting feel.
I didn't realize I was in a cranky mood.
I wouldn't say anyone's being cranky. I would say that you're being argumentative.
Oh, that's normal.
Yes. Well, it's generally speaking.
Hey, if
yeah.
I'm coming off as cranky, this is good user feedback because I was not going for. I was going for my usual sarcastic, kind of. Guys, it's water off a duck's back. I don't mind arguing. To me, it's not like we argue and then after this, I'm like walking down the halls of my house like. It's like
it's not. We're definitely not
forgot what we
personal.
were even arguing about. Yeah, it's arguing. Fun.
Thank you, Papa Hogue. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, Father.
Hope you're doing well, Father. All right, so we did get some good news out of the Nintendo house. I don't know why I said house, but Nintendo, whatever you want to call it, Treehouse maybe, is that the Switch 2 is finally. There's been a lot of speculation. We kind of all assumed this was going to be the case, but they did confirm that the Switch 2 or new Switch will be fully backwards compatible with the Switch. So this is good. I think we all needed to hear this. We still don't know when or what or why the Switch 2, hopefully in spring, but it's good to know that everything you have, especially all those people with big e-libraries now, people weirdos like me who still have the little cartridges, will be backwards compatible. So.
Yeah, no, it is good news. I'm not positive that they said that the cartridges would be compatible. That announcement.
Don't put that energy in this show, Hogue.
The announcement said that the Switch successor would play the software of the Switch. I'm not sure that requires a cartridge.
That is true.
I hope they never make it backwards compatible.
Well, I am very glad about this announcement. I think Nintendo had a number of good announcements
That's
of
me
late
being argumentative.
that are random. They announced the Xbox, not the Xbox, the Xenoblade Chronicles X is coming to the Switch. I mean, they did. They're bringing in all of these kind of Wii U prisoners over to the Switch console, and I think that's really cool. So Nintendo had a bunch of good announcements this week. I'm happy for them, and I hope that the Switch successor is as successful a product and is as smartly designed as the Switch was. So I'm excited as a Nintendo fan.
I hope it's as smartly designed as the PSVR 2.
I mean, PSVR 2, outside the cable, I guess, pretty good platform.
I hope they
the
don't
Switch.
support it.
See, it's funny because they'll never do it, of course, because Nintendo. But see, Nintendo is a company with a hardware that I would love a pro version of. Give me the Switch 2 and then give me a Super Switch 2. I'll buy the Super Switch 2 all day. I just, I'm concerned they're going to come out with the Switch 2 and it's just going to get them up to what we consider almost a base standard now. And then just like the Switch, within 2 years, it's going to be like, oh, God, I got to play it on the Switch 2.
I think it'll already be below.
I know. I'm
I just
trying to
don't
think
think
positively.
I don't think they're trying to go for that market, and I don't think that they
They're
should.
not.
I think they're in the right spot. Yeah, just let
Uh,
be Nintendo. Don't fight for the most pixels, and still laugh when your Metacritic scores are higher than the other industry.
Yeah, I mean,
Clearly,
heck,
they're in the right spot.
all of AAA
Yes.
gaming is figuring out that this extra expense on photorealism is not justifying the amount of resources that they're putting into it. So, I mean, Nintendo is in the probably long-term correct spot for everybody, which is being behind the tech curve a little bit and paying for artists and content that way rather than resolution. And I suspect that Switch 2 will be a generation or so back, probably PlayStation 4 level, something like that, on their system. But that'll be a big deal in a docked and portable combo package for the Switch 2. And I think that they are ultimately going to be very successful as long as they don't get insane with whatever kind of random crap they're going to have in their system. Well, the Nintendo that makes cardboard games and makes alarm clocks is going to have some input into what the Switch 2 is.
Yeah,
and
I want
so,
them to get insane. I feel like that's.
I
when
just
they're at
don't
their
want
best.
I don't want a higher expense to have some kind of fishing rod attachment on the right side of the system that is required to be used by every party that makes software for that system. So I want Nintendo to succeed. I want them to be wild and crazy. I don't want them to just isolate themselves and be their own little siloed platform that nobody else supports.
I think those two are diametrically opposed.
I think that there's a way through.
I mean, I think this is. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think we kind of already have an answer to the space. And I think for me, it's good news is because they have talked about things like Call of Duty and other major AAA games coming to the new Switch. There was another game that got announced. I'm going to forget the game. There was a game that got announced last week, and they basically almost kind of leaked it because the producer said it's coming to Xbox Series XS, PC, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo. And people were like, wait, what? And obviously they were talking about the new Switch. So my hope, because again, if you play on the Switch today, and I know people adore the Switch, like I'm in the minority, right? Like the Switch has sold gangbusters. You can play all sorts of unique games on the Switch, but you can't play Call of Duty. You can't play a lot of these big AAA titles that release on the Switch if you're a Switch only player, right? I'm hoping that the Switch 2 closes that gap a little bit and we'll start to see those titles arrive on the Switch. And I think it's going to do that.
Yeah, and I'm from a slightly different perspective, which is that I don't really care because, of course, I have multiple systems in my home, so I'm not likely to care about these things. I want the Switch to hit a minimum standard of kind of playing moderately intense, graphically indie games, because even low-end indie games that have a certain amount of 3D in them kill the Switch like instantaneously, and that's really where the Switch should shine. So if the Switch 2 can hit those, I'm more interested in that than Call of Duty because I got an Xbox to play that. But I could certainly understand the opposition there, which is to say, if you only want one system, it would be better if it could play everything that was coming out.
Well, and that. Sorry, Travis. I know you're waiting to talk. The last thing I'll say is that's where upscaling technology I think is going to help Nintendo. We'll see. This is just my own guess, but I'm guessing that we're going to see upscaling technology because it's going to allow them to leverage software to help them, with these bigger games, with keeping a image quality that's acceptable while still maintaining frame rate. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was basically going to say what Hogue said, which is like, I'll go a step further than Hogue, actually. I hope that they are so weird that they aren't compatible with other games, because like I truly don't care about Call of Duty being on the Switch.
Call of Duty is one example, guys. I'm talking about just AAA games in general.
I know. I'm talking about AAA games in general. I don't care if they're on the Switch personally, which is funny because when the Wii U generation, I was sort of like, wow, they're not going to be able to have like all these big like Assassin's Creed on their console, like this is going to be game set match. And now I'm like the exact opposite, where I'm like, man, if they get in a position where they are able to play those games, won't that mean that they've lost like their Nintendo touch? They'll no longer be like the weird outlier that's like doing a totally different thing. So I want the fishing rod on the console. I want them to be at maximum weirdness. I don't care if it goes against the grain, because the grain as it is pretty mid. Do your thing,
Well,
Nintendo. Go crazy. I don't think they're going to, though. To be clear, I think the Switch 2 is going to be exactly what everyone thinks it is, and I think it's going to be like the safest play we've ever seen Nintendo in like 20 years. Because
I disagree. I mean, I think that the hardware itself is unlikely to have the fishing line controller and these various things. I think the way it actually functions is likely to be some kind of weird, almost Google Stadia streaming hybrid thing that they've been working on in the back end, and that I think that we saw a couple weeks ago. I don't know if we talked about it on this channel, them kind of throwing out a supposedly NDA protected online beta thing for their existing Switch players that I think is probably a fake, a Trojan horse to evaluate simultaneous inputs on their back end. And I think that's all going to come to play on the Switch 2, Super Switch, whatever it winds up being called, because I think they are weird, and they're going to look to not match everybody else, but to at least have kind of an escape hatch for folks that do want access to the other games coming out. I also had another question on this, right? Because we talked about Xenoblade Chronicles just now. That actually has a full-on release date of March 20th of next year. Do we think that is a leaked Switch 2 release date?
Pretty much.
Because it sure seems like it.
That was my takeaway. I was like, okay, so spring of next year, which I think has been the rumor for a while.
That would be the 8-year anniversary of the Switch, right? It released at the end of March. If I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure it did.
Yeah, so March 20th, 2025, maybe. Pencil it in, circle it, but we're not sure yet.
Yeah. To your guys' point, going back real quick, the reason I was saying about AAA is because what we've seen in the past 2 years, maybe year and a half, with like Steam Deck and the ROG Ally and those is people playing their AAA games on the go. And the reason I bring that up is because if you think about those are either third-party devices, right? Or in Steam, you're playing on your client on PC and then your Steam Deck, right? Like I do. But being able to think about a game, let's just say, I don't know, pick a AAA game.
Cyberpunk.
Okay, sure. Well, it doesn't matter, right? Just AAA game comes out for someone like me, right? Because I'm definitely going to have the Switch 2 regardless, because I buy all new hardware, obviously. So, but now, there's actually games that I will buy on Steam with the understanding that, hey, now when I'm traveling or whatever, I can take my Steam Deck and play this with me, right? The same goes for the Switch. There were games I was buying on the Switch that I knew, okay, now I can play this on the go when I'm traveling. So it has that capability, assuming it has that power, the upscaling, however they do it, where that's a combo purchase for me now. Now it's a home release and a portable release in one purchase. That's a big thing for more people that I think is understood. Or maybe talked about. I don't know the word, but you know what I mean.
Right, and I'm not playing my Switch on trains or anything, but I am taking it to hotels when I travel. And that's a big improvement in my quality of life.
Yeah, so imagine you were playing Metaphor on it right now. You know what I mean? Like you didn't have to buy Metaphor on PS5. You could have played it on your Switch 2 and then play it portable if you want to, of course, right? That's a nice option to have. It's a bonus to your purchase. Just like the Steam Deck is when I buy games on Steam now. So, yep. But yeah, March would not surprise me at all, which would mean probably we would get like a direct or something about it maybe in January. Does anyone recall when they did the announcement of the Switch?
I believe November of the year prior.
Yeah, I went to E3 to play it after they announced it, but before it was out, so.
But remember, the Wii U was dead in the water, right? So they weren't trying to protect Wii U Christmas sales.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. Cool. But either way, good news, and I think I think we all agree. I mean, it's just a fact that the Switch has been a resounding success, and I think that Nintendo is definitely going to continue that with the Switch 2. We won't have another Wii U example here. So, the only other thing I want to mention today, guys, is Halo 2 Anniversary. I know this is more in my world, but it is cool regardless. So if you weren't aware, it is the 20th anniversary of Halo 2. Now, the reason that is celebrated is Halo 2, whether you like it or not, is, one of those foundation.
Yeah, it's the best of the Halo series.
Yeah, who doesn't like Halo 2?
I'm sure there's people who don't, but
I
my
want you to
point
take
is,
it back. Take it back.
I mean, it doesn't have an ending. That's the only realistic complaint
Yeah,
you
I
can
mean
have about
they
Halo
ran out
2.
of time and budget on that one.
yeah, I mean they cut it, but Halo 2 is widely regarded as one of kind of the most influential titles because of what it did for online, console kind of competitive gaming, multiplayer gaming, all those things.
And
But anyway,
ARGs. Don't underestimate the value of ARGs.
ARGs, what am I missing or
Alternate
forgetting?
reality gaming. Come on. I love bees.
Yeah.
ARGs, that's true.
The first ARG marketing campaign in gaming history.
You pulled back a nice throwback of Halo that I forgot about. Well done, sir. Well done.
I do love bees.
I actually, in all their game sense,
I do love bees.
on the tin, it's the tin, Travis. We've talked about this. On all the Halo game sense, they do have an icon like an Infinite. I can put on my armor a little bee emblem, and it says "I love bees" on it. So they kept that going
That's
all this
true.
time.
Yeah, they have been keeping up with that one.
Yeah, they've done it in all of them. There was one in Halo 5 as well. Anyway, I bring it up because 20th anniversary. So there's two things. I think I mentioned last week, there's a playlist in Halo Infinite right now, which is a very cool throwback to the classic Halo multiplayer days. So it's 8 remade classic maps, some of the greatest of all time, right? The classic ones. But it's also old school movement, right? So there's no sprinting, there's no clambering, it's extra jump height. It's been a blast to play. They also introduced a new weapon, which is kind of like what they did with Halo 2 with an SMG. So that's very cool. You can check that out on Infinite. And then what's even maybe cooler is, if you're not aware, back in 2003, E3 was the famous demo for Halo 2 before it released in 2004. That section of the game was cut. You were never able to actually play that part in the game. Well, thanks to some modders and working with what is now Halo Studios, they've released that. So you can play Master Chief Collection on Steam, and you can install a mod to put that level in the game and play it for the first time in history, which is,
you say it was cut. My understanding of this history was that it was faked, that was all created for E3. Is that not accurate?
No, that is accurate. But I mean, if you go into kind of the documentary on Halo 2, there's certain things that were planned, like parts of the campaign, that they just never got to because they ran out of time. So this was originally discussed, right, as part of it. It just wasn't there.
Yeah, usually when you fake a level for a show, it's because it's something that you intend to build, but just, like preparing for a show, especially back in the day, you had to like do a whole separate development cycle just to prepare for the demo, and it ate into your time of actually developing the game. And they've gotten better about that in recent
I remember
years.
this demo because I was super excited about defending Earth, and then they didn't.
Yeah,
really
I mean, the
and
demo.
then they really didn't let me until
you didn't deserve
OESD.
to defend Earth, bro.
Yeah, but then they put up all the ads, and I was ready to defend Earth, and then here's another Halo.
That was a moment in time, man. For those who weren't, like, if you're probably younger than 30, maybe it's 20 years ago. If you're 10, younger than maybe even right around your age, Travis, like Halo 2 was a moment. Like, that was a global launch of a game, unlike many that we've seen. I adore that moment in time.
What year was this?
2004.
I don't know. I would have been in college.
Yeah,
20 years.
Law school, I guess.
Yeah, I was like, I think Halo 2 came out the year in between like middle school and high school. Like I was about to become a freshman in high school, and I remember I played that game like all summer.
It was
parties,
it's all we did. It's all we did.
Yeah.
And the matchmaking, like there's so many foundational things that they did with that game. That really kind of changed the course of online gaming for consoles. So very cool.
Yeah,
cool
I had
to
all my
think
British friends. I had an entire clan I was playing that was in Britain. When
really?
I played Halo 2, because that was the time like between classes that it made
Nice.
sense for me to play Halo. And it was like after their workday. But yes, I made a number of British friends playing Halo 2.
The best people, I say.
I find it hard to believe that you made friends in a multiplayer game. It doesn't seem like you.
Oh,
You
back
should try
then you
being
did,
friendly.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, back then, 2004, man. Oh, we had a great time. I met so many people playing Halo 2. And
You remember
of course, they
the-
were still talking shit the whole time, but
Oh
that was
yeah,
part of
I
it.
heard some things I should not have heard at that age with people because of every mic was live. Like you'd get in the lobby and you could hear like all 16 people talking and making your mom jokes. It's good, dude. Good time.
Oh, it's good times, man. I love that era. It was so much fun.
Today on
And
Nostalgia Cast.
Yeah, yeah. And Halo 2, I mean, like when you talk about multiplayer maps, like there's some games that jump out where it's like the maps in that game were foundational for multiplayer famous. Like Halo 2 is probably the GOAT as well. I don't think there's any multiplayer shooter. Someone will challenge me on this, of course, so please do. But if you think about overall maps, Halo 2 is it's God tier.
They pretty
It's
much
God
have
tier.
it as that's locked up.
So yeah, but anyway, good stuff. So definitely check out that demo. I haven't checked it out yet because I haven't been home. So I'm gonna hopefully get that installed and check it out. And then the playlist in Infinite is fun. Definitely play it. I will say, and this is gonna be controversial in the Halo community, is that it only took me a match or two of playing it to realize, no, we've evolved for a reason. Like leave sprint in, leave clamber, like. You go back to playing normal Infinite, and it's like, I love this. Like, this is where I grew up in the Halo verse, but come on.
So we played Halo at my LAN party at my bachelor party, and
Yeah.
I think the group was pretty much split. Like there were people like me, my buddy Kevin, who like immediately were like, "Oh yes!" Like not being able to run, you have to like plan every move. It kind of gives it like a strategy vibe to it. We're super into it, and then the other half you could hear them going like, "What? There's no sprint? What the like?" Just people losing their minds at like forgetting all the things that were in game. So I think it was like 50-50, but we did fall off of Halo pretty quickly, just because I think the people who were in it, who were into it, felt bad about the half that were just like suffering on our behalf, that were just like only there because we really wanted to do it. But yeah, I find myself on the former side. I play Halo 2, and it's a very different game design mentality, but it's one I sort of vibe with because it's a little different. It shakes things up.
Especially different today. Like it definitely stands out. But
now it's funny because it was using all of the like best practices of multiplayer game design in its day, but now you play it and you're like, oh, look at this company, they're trying something new. It's like, no, it's just old. They're trying something old, but it does feel fresh if you play it in 2024.
Yeah. I think what they did, we don't have to stay on it, obviously, because I could talk about this for far too long. But what they did in Halo Infinite, like most people don't realize, when you sprint in Halo Infinite, it's only like 7% faster than walking. And they did that for a reason, right? So like most of the time when you're playing Infinite, if you know what you're doing, you're not running. So it's really kind of got that good mix, I would say.
Makes a bunch of noise and lets you not recharge your shields. Right?
And you can't shoot. No, you can recharge your shields, but you can't shoot, right? So
is that Halo 5 where your shields wouldn't recharge if you ran? I really liked that rule. I thought that was smart.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's that. I think that's gonna basically, wrap us up for this week's news. There wasn't a whole lot this week. Next week we do get releases all on the same day, which is kind of funny. So if you obviously playing Black Ops 6, the first season, kind of the official launch of the full suite is November 14th, which is multiple new maps. The first season pass, Warzone gets integrated into Black Ops, new zombies map. So all that good stuff is coming. Friday is the 14th, Friday or Thursday? Thursday.
No idea.
And then Hoag's most anticipated game of the year, Lego Horizon Adventures, also releases that same day. And then
I will say I bought Funko Fusion on sale this week, so I'm destroying things with toys right now. But it's not great. Lego Horizon, we didn't I don't think talk about it in this space. Maybe I missed it on the show that I missed. But the Horizon Remastered update for the PlayStation 5, I did get. I got to be honest, guys. I can't tell the difference at all. So $10 well spent.
That's what I was gonna say. You did the $10 upgrade because I was gonna say you weren't big on that, so I don't know why you bought that. But was it just to check it out, or
$10? I mean, that's the right price point. Sony's got me there. So
he just buys everything, dude.
It doesn't seem that different. I wish I could, but I do not.
Get yourself a Pro. I heard it's upgraded for the Pro, so there you go. So then $10 plus the $700, you might as well go. Just do it. And
that's spoken like a person with a balanced budget right there.
But the big release I think that we've talked about, which all jokes aside, I know Hogue is excited for, is Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake.
Absolutely.
Is Thursday as well. So our review will can I say that? I don't know. review this week sometime.
I don't know what you could say at all.
So Alex, who did the preview for us, is wrapped that one up, and we'll have a full review of that one as well. But that, I played that at Summer Game Fest, like I said. So a really, really fun remake if you love that classic JRPG style. So, yeah.
I believe we're due for an Outlaws DLC soon. I don't know if it's this coming week or the week after.
I think the DLC and their big update they've been talking about, right? Are they doing those two things together?
Did you see the announcement that they have a new creative director for this released game? Yep. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen as an announcement.
I did not see that. Wait a minute.
They have a new creative director, and the creative director wants to change a bunch of stuff about the gameplay.
Of Star Wars Outlaws?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm hopeful that they don't break it, because there is stuff that definitely works in the series. But yeah, they got a new game director.
I think the stuff he wanted to change was basically addressing a lot of the feedback of the stuff that we all complained about when it comes to the stealth mechanics and the shooting as well, the gameplay. You don't really have to do a lot of shooting in that game, but when you do, it's sort of like a shooting gallery. It's pretty simple stuff.
So it says that the first DLC is the 21st. So it's
yes,
the week after.
Our chat just told us too. Thank you all. Interesting. A new creative director after a game's released. That's not a live service game.
Correct.
Ostensibly not. Yeah.
It has expansions coming out, and I think they just want to. I mean, it's a Star Wars game. It's one of those games that's probably going to sell through for a couple years while people figure it out, and the casual fans who aren't gamers get to it. We've seen some of that with Hogwarts Legacy. That game sold well at the beginning, and then it just has continued to sell because its audience is so much broader than the core gaming audience.
Outlaws becomes good, but it is a car crash to start. So if they can fix that, great.
Newsman said everything I've generally heard about Outlaws is bad except for on this channel. Well, I haven't played the game. I think Hogue and Travis were pretty good on it, but I mean, I wouldn't say bad. Again, this is a game that's in the 70s and its reviews. That's not bad.
Yeah, I think people have high expectations for certain games and are willing to give other games more of a pass.
I don't know.
Outlaws is very, very good by the time it figures out what it wants to be. Unfortunately, that's going to take some of your time when you start it out.
Yeah. So it's a 75 open critic. It has an 80 for its player rating, whatever, if you want to put any weight on that at all. But yeah, I don't know. I know Alex, who reviewed it for us, was the same, right? It was slow to start, a little frustrating early on, but it gets really good. And we've said that about so many games. I think Hogue, you said it the other week, work on your first 10 hours, whatever you take, game developers or game directors, creative directors, whatever.
I feel that way about Veilguard. I think Veilguard gets a step up in terms of enjoyment after the first sequence of things where it's trying to figure out what it's doing, because the story, again, is a car crash to start. You can feel the rewrites, you can feel them trying to figure out what their game is going to be. And certainly them changing villains and all the other stuff that I've talked about here. And then it gets into its zone. And then I think, honestly, whether it's because it was a multiplayer live service game before or just because of the way BioWare operates right now, it runs in kind of the same zone for too long. It overstays its welcome. But that's going to be a reasonable minds can differ, your mileage may vary kind of question. I'm interested in seeing how Ains feels about getting through Act 1 and into Act 2. Because me too. I do view it as kind of the dregs of the game.
Yeah, and then so this is a bold statement. It's not my statement. It's just people I've talked to. So I've talked to multiple people now. This is not one, but the people who have finished Veilguard who say that Act 3, right, the arc, is some of the strongest BioWare has ever done.
Yeah, I've heard people like the ending of this game. I'm interested in seeing it because it would take a lot.
Yeah, me too. So... but yeah, I'll be playing more this week. I'll obviously get more into that next week as we get near the end. Once we go finish it, we can have a full conversation about it. But anyway, that is going to wrap us up for this week. I'm looking forward to release. I'm looking forward to getting back to some gaming. Travis, I don't know how you do it, man. Just traveling for a couple days this week it throws me all off. You know what I mean? When it's not your full-time job, it's it throws off everything in my cycle of week to week.
It's chaos. You have to have very strong systems, and it takes some getting used to. But yeah, I'm also dealing with some catching up. I've been working, all this weekend, and got a preview to write today. Good times.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, the game that I previewed, the embargo is not for a little while yet, so I've got some time. But
Mine's Tuesday.
I just told my wife last night, I was like, I'm so glad I don't have to do something by like mid this week because that would be terrible.
Yeah, well, I have to get it to my video editors tomorrow, which means today is like a full
Yeah.
work day. So, I actually, when I do previews, depending on how long the plane ride is, I usually am able to write the preview on the plane and just be done on the way back. But this plane did not have in-flight Wi-Fi, so
I have no feel at all for where Slitterhead is going to end, so I'm going to play more of that.
it sounds
Nice.
fun.
Good luck, gentlemen.
By the way, I think, is it tomorrow we get the deep dive on Indiana Jones? And I believe they also announced a documentary or making of a Vidoc, whatever you want to call it, of South of Midnight. So we get some Xbox good stuff this week as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Should be a good time. So, all right, on the season gaming side, just take a look for Alex's Dragon Quest 3 review. I can't say the time, I don't think, but obviously that'll be this week before release. So if you give that a look, we should be doing a video and a written review for that, so that'll be good. We have a couple articles up now on some things, like an opinion article from Steve's up there you can check out. We have the review of Life is Strange Double Exposure as well. And there's a few things out there as we move on through. So, Travis, anything else you want to mention? I know we've kind of talked about what we're working on.
Yeah,
anything else?
writing a preview today. It's coming out later this week. Very cool game I got to check out. And then I'm doing a review of Path of Exile, I think is my next thing, Path of Exile 2, which will happen at some point. I think we could probably expect code this week. It's coming out pretty soon.
December 6th. Is the date for that one.
Probably not this week then, because I forgot.
I think we'll be review buddies on that one. I'm probably going to review that one.
Hell yeah, ARPG bros. That'll be a fun one.
I got to tell you, speaking of ARPGs, I don't think I've ever dropped off a game as hard as I've dropped off Diablo 4.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I always drop off Diablo 4 after I've played through the season, but my buddies are still hard into it. So...
yeah, I mean, I will pop back in for the next season probably, but right this second they have lost me.
Yeah, I almost said something. I can't say. Moving on.
Okay. Well, I don't know what we're moving on to. I can talk.
Go ahead, Hogue. Go ahead, Hogue.
So I didn't do a separate video on my channel this week, but I did do a Sacred Symbols Plus. Over at Last Stand Media, talking about the potential effects of the U.S. election on the video game industry. So if that sounds interesting to you, check that out at Last Stand Media. I think it is paywalled at their lowest Patreon level, so you can check that out if you're so inclined. But it's about a 2-hour video, and I think we had a good conversation. And then I will do more videos on my channel this week, probably about Pocket Pair and Pal World, disclosing what patents Nintendo is talking about, and maybe not being as clear as they could be about what Nintendo is asking for. And I think there is some confusion online. Usually when I see that, that's when I make a video. So there might be a virtual legality about that this week. There's some other stuff I'm thinking about talking about as well. So if you're interested in those kinds of things, virtual legality, hangouts and headlines, whatever, come over to my channel. There's probably going to be new content for you this week.
Awesome. Yeah, I was going to mention that, but I figured exactly as you said, could probably kind of discuss it, and then we can discuss it in more detail once you go into it. So we can touch on that next week. Other than that, chat, awesome as always. Thank you to the audio listeners. We got a huge boost in audio listeners last week. Funny enough, from like regions near where I live, which is creepy. So I don't know how
clicking repeat. You just left it on.
very weird. But anyway, thank you, everyone. Have a good week of gaming. Obviously, next week we will be back and with more games to talk about. So until then, enjoy it. We'll see you then. Peace.